The most authentic person in the room often gets the least attention. And this isn't a complaint about audiences, it's an observation about communication. And you probably know people like this, and you might be that person. Uh, Deep conviction, genuine care, total transparency about what they believe and why. And somehow, across every room that they walk into, their message just doesn't land. The idea doesn't spread, their proposal doesn't close, the team doesn't move, it just stays stuck. And the advice that they keep getting is always the exact same thing: be more authentic, open up more, let people see how much you care. As if the problem is that people can't tell how genuine they are. That is not the issue. Like, stick with me and I'll show you exactly what is the problem and then what to do to fix it, right? Because I've spent 30 years in an environment where you feel the gap of whether or not your communication is working the moment that it opens up. And it's on stage, weirdly. When a performance doesn't land, you don't get a follow up email saying, really interesting, a lot to think about. You watch it not land in real time, in front of everybody. There's no denying it. That environment teaches you something real fast. It's the distance between how much you care about what you're doing and whether it actually lands can be enormous. And caring harder doesn't close that gap, right? So here's something about sincerity that took me a long time to understand. Sincerity doesn't always just fail to help. In certain conditions, it actively works against you. And I want to show you exactly how that mechanism works and then what replaces it. Right? Because like the people in my community are sitting with this exact distinction right now, the gap between what they mean and what actually lands for the person across from them. So if that's the kind of honest audit that you want to do with like serious people, that's what it's there for. Links in the description, pinned comment, all that. But let's start with what authenticity actually is. When somebody tells you to be authentic, they're telling you to have good intentions, to mean what you say, to care about the outcome. And that's not nothing, right? Like a communicator without good intentions is a manipulator, and that's not what we're here to be. That's not what we're doing. All right. But here's what authenticity is: it's an intention, and intentions are invisible to your audience. The person across from you never directly experiences your authenticity. What they experience is what you build for them: the words, the sequence that you put ideas in, the tone, the timing, the specific construction you produce in their mind. Your authenticity shapes what you choose to say. It doesn't determine whether what you said lands for your audience. That's the gap. Okay. So the most authentic people in the room can be completely ignored, right? Their intentions are fine, but what they've never looked at is what they're actually creating in the other person's mind. Whether what they're saying is building the understanding, the belief, the decision that the moment needs, right? Because most of them have never asked that question. The message goes out, they have no idea what comes together in the mind of their audience. So here's the part that's super uncomfortable. Sincerity, like deep, genuine sincerity, tends to direct your attention inward toward how true the thing feels, towards how much you care about it, towards how important it is that they understand. But the more that you care, the more focused you become on your own experience of the message. And the more focused you get on your experience, the less attention you have to spend on connecting with your audience. Passion narrows the lens, but discipline actually expands your bandwidth. The sincere communicator walks into the room with one thought: this is true, and I need them to see it. Okay. The disciplined communicator walks into the room with a completely different one, which is: here's what they're already building in their mind. Here's where I actually need to start if I'm going to help them understand. Both people care, but only one of them is working with what's already happening in the room. And this is why expertise is so reliably frustrating to be around. Stick with me, right? Because the expert has spent years developing a real understanding of their subject. That understanding is genuine, right? Like, it's hard won, it's valuable. And then when they share it from inside their own understanding. The way the pieces connect, the way the argument unfolds, the way it all makes sense once you see it the way that they see it. The audience is not inside that understanding. They're standing on the outside, trying to build something with the pieces that they're getting handed, and none of it fits, right? And the expert, completely sincere, completely genuine, completely correct, keeps explaining the thing the way they already understand, rather than helping the audience build the understanding that they don't have yet. It's a completely different, like, inversion. So the gap has nothing to do with how smart either party is, and it has nothing to do with how much the expert cares. Okay? Caring doesn't close that gap. It doesn't address that issue. Only working with the audience's construction process in their mind can solve this issue. Right? That's it. So here's a specific version of this that you've probably been in. All right. So imagine somebody's pitching you something. You can feel how much it means to them. Like, the energy's real, the conviction's real. The idea might even be, like, genuinely good, but they lose you somewhere in the first 2 minutes, right? You're trying to follow, you're nodding along. You might ask a polite question or two that you could come up with. And, like, the whole time, they're explaining harder, more detail, more context, more conviction. They might get loud about it, right? Because from inside their experience, more explanation is the only tool that they've got in their toolbox. Maybe if I just say more about it. They're sincere. They're working hard. But they're watching you go somewhere they can't reach you. They know, they're just like, what's going on, right? So the problem isn't the idea, and the problem isn't the person. The problem is that everything they're doing is aimed at their message. Nothing is aimed at the understanding process happening in your mind in real time. The effective communicator works different. Before they say anything, they're asking a different set of questions, right? What does this person already believe about the topic? What have they tried before? That didn't work. Why do they think it doesn't work? What are they afraid of finding out? What do they need to be true before they can say yes? Have you ever asked those questions before, right? Because those questions don't replace authenticity. They work together, right? Truth is still the raw material. Character still determines the aim of why you're choosing to communicate in the first place. But the effective communicator also brings that something extra, which is a working understanding of how this particular audience makes up its mind, and a deliberate process for working with that system. That's it. So they're not performing, they're building, they're engineering. And that's why I call it information architecture, right? Because the communicator is building towards a specific thing, the exact understanding, the right belief, the precise insight, the decision that outcome needs to happen for success to be true, right? Something being true doesn't make it persuasive, which blows a lot of people's minds, right? And the process that someone goes through when they form a belief operates within its own logic. So, the discipline of effective communication is learning to work with that process and making sure that you bring truth along for the ride. So, earlier I said sincerity can actively work against you. Here's the mechanism: when you're sincerely passionate about an idea, your attention moves towards what that idea means to you, how true it feels, how important it is to you, and how much you need them to understand. And while your attention is on all of that, there's a construction process happening in your audience that you're not watching. You're not paying attention to how they're receiving it. They're building something with what you're giving them. And without the discipline to work with that process, you got no influence over what it is that they're building from the materials you're giving them. So the sincerity is real, the care is real, the message still doesn't land. So the discipline of effective communication doesn't replace authenticity. It's what makes authenticity matter, right? So without it, you're handing the audience raw material and hoping they build something useful with it. But with it, you're actually in the room with them, building the right thing together with the right intent every time. So now you know sincerity isn't the tool. That's not the lever that you're pulling. So the next question is the obvious one. So where do you develop the tool that actually works, right? So the answer is in an environment most people have never been in, and it's an environment where the feedback is immediate, binary, and impossible to rationalize away. And that's the next video. It's called What 15,000 Performances Taught Me That Business School Could Never Teach Me. So I'll see you there.